Okay, so today we are reviewing Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and this is my part 2 of that review. If you missed part 1, or if you only saw the spoiler-free section of part 1, I need you to know that this is a spoiler section. Part 2 is all spoiler stuff because we got to a certain point where we ran out of time and there's still so much I want to talk about, but it's all spoilery. So if you have not read this book and you want to read it before you receive any spoilers, please know that I'm discussing spoilers. Okay, I've said that enough. Let's backtrack to where we ended with part 1. So I'm going to spoil from now. We were talking about the Prince's Tale, that chapter, and how every single sentence in that chapter is a nugget of gold, and I'm going to start off by giving you some examples. Okay, so in this version, I am on page 542, where Harry's in the Pensieve. He's looking at all these memories that Snape has, and we're starting off with Lily, his mum, and her sister, Harry's aunt, Petunia, when they're kids, and Lily is showing Petunia a flower where the petals are opening and closing on their own, and Petunia is freaking out about it. So, from that point, Petunia says, "How do you do it?" she added, and there was a defiant longing in her voice. "It's obvious, isn't it?" Snape could no longer contain himself, but had jumped out from behind the bushes. Petunia shrieked and ran backwards towards the swings, but Lily, though clearly startled, remained where she was. Snape seemed to regret his appearance. A dull flush of colour mounted the sallow cheeks as he looked at Lily. "What's obvious?" asked Lily. Snape had an air of nervous excitement. With a glance at the distant Petunia, now hovering beside the swings, he lowered his voice and said, "I know what you are." "What do you mean?" You're a witch," whispered Snape. She looked affronted. "That's not a very nice thing to say to somebody," and it goes on. The point I want to make is the reveal of this moment, and keeping in mind this is a reread for me. This is definitely not the first time. It's like the third or fourth time I'm reading this book. And still it's a reveal for me. The big nugget of a reveal here is that Snape meets Lily before James meets Lily, and Snape is the one to tell Lily for the first time she is a witch. Oh my god! So we fast forward to another memory where Snape and Lily are talking about magic and Hogwarts and all of that kind of stuff, and there is another nuggeted gem where they're talking about doing magic outside of school. So Snape is saying the Ministry of Magic can punish you if you do magic outside of school. You get letters. And Lily responds by saying, "But I have done magic outside of school." And Snape says, "We're all right. We haven't got wands yet. They let you off when you're a kid and you can't help it. But once you're 11, he nodded importantly, and they start training you, then you've got to be careful." This is another gem because it's something that a lot of us, I think anyway, because I have and I know others that have as well, are kind of wondering how the trace works. And now we know. Once you are equipped with a wand, that is when, and once you are 11, that is when the trace goes on you, not before then. So that in and of itself, as small as it may be to some people, is still a reveal. It is another golden nugget. Now we fast forward to, in the same Pensieve but a different memory, we fast forward to the moment where Lily, I don't know her last name, Lily Evans and Severus Snape are on platform 9 3/4 going to Hogwarts for the very first time. Lily is talking to her sister Petunia, and she says, "I'm sorry, Chuny. I'm sorry. Listen." She caught her sister's hand and held tight to it, even though Petunia tried to pull it away. "Maybe once I'm there—" "No, listen, Chuny. Maybe once I'm there, I'll be able to go to Professor Dumbledore and persuade him to change his mind." "I don't want to go," said Petunia, and she dragged her hand back out of her sister's grasp. "You think I want to go to some stupid castle and learn to be Her pale eyes roved over the platform, over the cats mewling in their owner's arms, over the owls fluttering and hooting at each other in cages, over the students, some already in their long black robes, loading trunks onto the scarlet steam engine, or else greeting one another with glad cries after a summer apart. You think I want to be a freak? So that's the first time that we see Petunia calling Lily a freak, but there's more. Lily's eyes filled with tears as Petunia succeeded in tugging her hand away. I'm not a freak, said Lily. That's a horrible thing to say. That's where you're going, said Petunia with a relish. A special school for freaks. You and that Snape boy. Weirdos, that's what you are. It's good you're being separated from normal people. It's for our safety. Now, Lily responds to Petunia by saying, you didn't think it was such a freak's school when you wrote to the headmaster and begged him to take you. Hello? What? What? Petunia actually wrote to Dumbledore and begged him to take her? Wow. It adds another element to Petunia. Again, this is the third or fourth time I'm reading this book, but I'm realizing more and more about all these backstory things that I had no idea about. We knew that Petunia viewed Lily as a freak. We know this because it's discussed in book one. But what we don't know is Lily actually wrote to Dumbledore begging him to take her because she wanted to go to Hogwarts. What? What? Are you serious? So now we're on the train, Lily, Evans, and Severus Snape. And Snape says to Lily, you better be in Slytherin. And she says, Slytherin? And then comes in, I believe it's Sirius and James. And James says, who wants to be in Slytherin? I think I'd leave, wouldn't you? And he asks that to Sirius. Sirius says, my whole family have been in Slytherin. Blimey, says James, and I thought you seemed all right. Sirius grinned. Maybe I'll break the tradition. Where are you heading, if you've got the choice? James lifted an invisible sword. Gryffindor, where dwell the brave of heart, like my dad. I love this whole scene. I mean, I love the whole chapter, as I've said. But I love this scene because it shows us how Harry's parents were. Lily, just like Harry, knows nothing about the houses, so I love that they were both the same in that way. I didn't know that, and maybe this is just because I focus more on the books rather than a lot of other information that's out there, so forgive me if you already knew this, but I didn't know that James's father was a wizard also, nor did I know that James's father was in Gryffindor. So first of all, I'm going, oh my god, his father was a wizard. So James at least was a pureblood. So, and either it didn't come up in the books or I didn't remember it. So Harry's grandfather was a wizard, and he was also in Gryffindor. Like, just blowing my mind here. One thing I don't like, however, is a couple of lines later, one of the two, either James or Sirius, says, see ya, Snivelus. So this is something that's already occurring on the train before they've even gotten to Hogwarts. I don't like how James and Sirius were with Snape, but to learn that it didn't begin at Hogwarts, to learn that it began on the train before they even got to Hogwarts, for their first year, before they were even sorted, tough to read. And now we get to the moment where Snape is having a conversation with Dumbledore, seemingly for the first time since he joined Voldemort and the Death Eaters, and this is an amazing moment. So, we're with Snape and Voldemort somewhere. We don't know where it is, but we're outside. The wind is howling. Harry's freezing, watching this, and this is what happens. Snape says, "Don't kill me," to Dumbledore. Dumbledore says, "That was not my intention." Dumbledore then says, "Well, Severus, what message does Lord Voldemort have for me?" And Snape says, no message. I'm here on my own account. Okay, Snape says, I came with a warning. No, a request, please. Dumbledore says, what request could a Death Eater make of me? And Snape says, the prophecy, the prediction, Trelawney. Dumbledore says, ah, yes. How much did you relay to Lord Voldemort? Snape says, everything I heard. That is why it is for that reason. He must think it means Lily Evans. I love this because we already know from, I believe, Half-Blood Prince, but it could be Order of the Phoenix. It's either the end of Order of the Phoenix or somewhere in Half-Blood Prince. We know that Snape heard some of the prophecy when he was outside the door of the room where Dumbledore is interviewing Trelawney for the job, and she says the prophecy. We know Snape's heard something. So to have this moment where where Snape is begging Dumbledore, please don't kill me. I know about the prophecy. I heard everything. I told Voldemort everything. To have this scene in front of me, oh my god, it is like gold. Why was this not in the film? I don't understand why this wasn't in the film. This is golden to me. I just want to keep reading this chapter. Seriously. So Snape begs Dumbledore to keep Lily and then corrects himself and says all of them, Lily, James and Harry, safe. And Dumbledore says, what will you give me in return? Pretty cocky if you ask me, but anyway, what will you give me in return? And Snape says, anything. And this is the moment. This is such a key moment to the entire series. This is the moment where Snape swears his allegiance to Dumbledore. And we get more and more as Harry continues through Snape's memory in the Pensieve about what Dumbledore gets Snape to do while he is masquerading as a Death Eater, but is legitimately on side with Dumbledore. But this is the moment where it happens, and God, it's so good. And it just continues on with so many good things that I could just sit here and narrate the entire chapter. That's how much I love it and how many nuggets of gold appear in the chapter. But the rest of the really big moments do appear in the film, such as Snape talking to Dumbledore about different things, including his love for Lily, the ring and Dumbledore's cursed hand, Dumbledore begging Snape to kill him. All that stuff does appear in the movie. But I do want to make a point about that. In the Half-Blood Prince, J.K. Rowling does so many things well. But in the Half-Blood Prince, all Dumbledore says is, Severus, please. And you can't help but think in that moment, without any more information, that he is saying, Severus, please don't kill me. But yet Dumbledore has planned at least a year ago, I don't know if it's about a year ago, but they planned quite a while before anyway, that Snape will be the one to kill him if Draco can't. And that also makes the unbreakable vow that Snape has with Narcissa make a whole lot more sense, because he's going to be doing this anyway. I don't know if this is the case or not, but I assume that Snape and Dumbledore have the conversation about Snape killing Dumbledore in the end prior to Snape making the unbreakable vow. So he is risking nothing, where when you first read The Half-Blood Prince, you seem so sure, you can't help but seem so sure that Snape is absolutely a Death Eater because he made the unbreakable vow to kill Dumbledore, and you have no pretense or pretext to why he's doing this. So you can't help but assume and go there that he is a dark character and all these kind of things. It's just so very, very, very good. But one last bit that I want to mention from this chapter is Dumbledore talking to Snape, and Dumbledore says, there will come he says, listen closely, Severus. There will come a time after my death. Do not argue, do not interrupt. There will come a time when Lord Voldemort will seem to fear for the life of his snake. And Snape says, for Nagini. And Dumbledore says, precisely. If there comes a time when Lord Voldemort stops sending that snake forth to do his bidding, but keeps it safe beside him under magical protection, then I think it will be safe to tell Harry. And Snape says, tell him what? And Dumbledore says, tell him that on the night Lord Voldemort tried to kill him, when Lily cast her own life between them as a shield, the killing curse rebounded upon Lord Voldemort, and a fragment of Voldemort's soul was blasted apart from the hole and latched itself onto the only living soul left in that collapsing building. Part of Lord Voldemort lives inside Harry, and it is that which gives him the power of speech with snakes, and a connection with Lord Voldemort's mind that he has never understood. And while that fragment of soul, unmissed by Voldemort, remains attached to and protected by Harry, Lord Voldemort cannot die. So Snape says, so the boy must die. And Dumbledore says, and Voldemort himself must do it, Severus. This is essential. Another amazing moment. This chapter was so freaking amazingly good that even if I don't end up rereading this book, I do want to keep rereading that chapter over and over and over again, because I think the more I reread just that chapter, the more I'm going to find so many golden nuggets. So naturally, Harry comes out of the Pensieve knowing that he has to let Voldemort kill him, and eventually that is what happens, and Harry goes to wherever Harry goes, because I was under the impression, and I think it's now a mistaken impression, that Harry was absolutely at King's Cross Station, because that's where Harry thinks that he is. But this is never actually confirmed. Harry just says he thinks it's King's Cross Station, and Dumbledore says something to the effect of, King's Cross Station? Really? Okay, fair enough if that's what you think, kind of thing. So we don't really know where he is. We also don't have confirmation of what the little baby thing that's squirming in the corner is. I've always assumed it was Voldemort's soul, the part of Voldemort's soul that was in Harry, but we never received confirmation. Every time Harry alludes to it, Dumbledore fobs him off and says that is something that cannot be helped, and it is really frustrating. Harry and Dumbledore get to have their conversation in this book, and that is something that I really appreciate. I've told you guys, if you've seen all the other reviews that I've done on Harry Potter, any of the other books I've done, that one of my most favourite parts of every single book is when Harry and Dumbledore get to have a conversation at the end of the book that is both enlightening but also really classically, I feel, beautiful. They get to have it in this one because Harry dies, and wherever Harry goes to when he is dead, he and Dumbledore get together and have a conversation. And it wraps things up so beautifully. Dumbledore talks about Ariana and how he felt terrible about how everything went down with that, his obsession with the Deathly Hallows, and how he didn't tell Harry, and how he hopes Harry can forgive him for not telling him, and all of these other things. It was so good to have their conversation, and again, much better in the book than it was in the film. Again, in the film, they just say the important parts. They don't say everything, but then the things that they leave out of the film are still important. So, I mean, there should be a part 1, part 2, and part 3 of Deathly Hallows, the film, because there's just so much that I wish they could have included in the film. So obviously Harry comes back, and we have that scene with Harry and Narcissa, and I love this moment. I don't think a lot of people refer to this moment because it is so small, but it is such a redemption arc for, one, the Malfoy family, not really Lucius, but still the Malfoy family, but especially for Narcissa, when she asks Harry, is Draco still alive? And Harry whispers to her, and it's done really well. Her hair covers his face so no one can see him answering. So good. And he whispers yes, and Narcissa confirms to Voldemort, even though Harry has proven he's alive, yes, he's dead. And so well done. And obviously Dumbledore forces Dumbledore forces Hagrid to carry Harry back to the castle to show everyone that Harry is dead. One thing I do want to mention there is that I know this because I've seen a couple of interviews with J.K. Rowling, and she keeps mentioning this, and so it's always stuck in my mind. One of the very first things that J.K. Rowling came up with, that she saw in her mind before she started writing Harry Potter, was she envisioned Hagrid carrying Harry out of the Forbidden Forest in his arms. She said this many times, and I just love that. that's kind of, she said, we were always leading up to this. I always knew Hagrid was going to carry Harry out of the forest. I always knew this. We were always leading up to it. And so it was beautiful to read it this time, knowing that that was the first thing she thought of, and that's what she was always leading up to. Then we get to the point where Neville kills Nagini. Really, really good moment. Great moment for Neville, who has come so very far over the course of this book. We also, as far as Horcruxes are concerned, I was so proud of Hermione. Hermione ends up destroying a Horcrux, which I totally forgot about. She ends up destroying, I think it's the cup. Yes, it is, because Ron destroys the locket. Hermione destroys the cup. Neville destroys the snake, and Dumbledore destroys the ring. Harry destroys everything else. Okay, including himself, obviously. And then we have the moment at the end where Harry and Ron are... Sorry, not Harry and Ron. I apologize. I'm just really excited. Harry and Voldemort are circling each other in, I believe it's the Great Hall, but it's somewhere. And everyone is around them. Let's cut to the movie. This does not happen. In the movie... I'm just going to put the book down for a moment. In the movie, Harry and Voldemort face off one-on-one. No one else is there. We know the snake has been killed. We know that this is it. If Harry kills Voldemort, Voldemort's dead. He can't come back. And it's just Harry and Voldemort together. And I think Harry says something like, let's finish this together. And they cast a few spells. There's a bit of morphing that goes on with editing that I don't agree with. And then when... eventually the two characters cast their spells against each other and Harry retrieves the wand from Voldemort, Voldemort dissolves into cornflakes. I'm sorry, but it's the only way to say it. If you've seen the film, I don't care how many times you've seen it, watch it again, remember these words. Voldemort dissolved into cornflakes. Because that's what it looks like. It's like cornflakes. It's so anticlimactic, whether it's cornflakes or not, how Voldemort dies. Now, in the book, it is much more dramatic, and I wish they had stuck to it that way. They are circling each other in the middle of this massive crowd that is watching them. Voldemort keeps up this lie that he's been telling everyone, that Harry was caught running away and that's how he was killed. And Harry says, well, no, I didn't do that and I'm not doing it again. And Voldemort says, who's going to stand in your way now? Who's going to save you this time? Well, I don't need anyone to save me, says Harry. And they're talking about the love protection from Lily, and they're talking about how Voldemort was never the true owner of the Elder Wand. Why was that not in the film? That is a massively critical moment in the book that should have been in the film, and it is stated after the fact in the film. Harry is saying it to Ron and Hermione, but there's no need to say it at that point because it's over. Harry could just easily snap the wand and throw it away, and we don't have to care about it at that point. But it is stated to Voldemort before he dies by Harry in the book, the wand was never yours. In fact, the wand was never Snape's. It was always Draco's. But because I defeated Draco, the wand is... I'm actually the true owner of the Elder Wand. The Elder Wand's not going to kill me. It's not going to kill anyone else because I'm the true owner of the wand. So well done. Oh my gosh. And then, obviously, then they do the spells and Harry retrieves the wand and Voldemort, as anticlimactic as it sounds, it's so much better than the film. Voldemort falls to the ground, he's dead. There is no cornflakes or anything like that, he just falls to the ground and he dies. But it is the lead up to that moment where they're having this conversation and we get this reveal about who the true owner of the Elder Wand is and how and why. That is just wonderful. After that moment, eventually, because everyone's really happy, Harry's won the war, all that, that's great. I want to fast forward to Harry under the invisibility cloak. Bless Luna, because Luna makes a point that I would have thought, and Harry is definitely thinking, which is, if it were me, I wouldn't want everyone coming up around me. And Harry says, well, yeah, I don't either. She says, give me a moment, I'll distract everyone. And in true Luna style, I don't remember what the actual animal was, but for example, she says something like, look everyone, a crumplehorn snorkack. And everyone looks to whatever animal she's pretending to point out because there's nothing there. And Harry slips the cloak on and becomes invisible and takes Ron and Hermione with him to the headmaster's office. I want to say Dumbledore's office, but because to me it's Dumbledore's office, but the headmaster's office technically. And they walk in All the portraits are applauding Harry. They're so proud of Harry. Phineas Nigligus, or whatever his name is, says the point that I want it known that my Slytherins fought as well. This is what I was referring to in part 1 when I said that there was no redemption arc for a certain subset group. I wish the Slytherins had a redemption arc, because the way that this ends, the Slytherins left. They did not fight at all. I actually did research to confirm this because I thought maybe I'd missed something, but I hadn't. None of the Slytherins actually fight in the war. Yes, Draco and Crabbe and Goyle are doing what they're doing in the Room of Requirement with the whole diadem thing, but none of the other Slytherins are actually fighting either way. They're not fighting with the Death Eaters, and they're not fighting on the side of Dumbledore's army. So, the Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore's army, really the side of good. Anyway, and I wish that they had. I wish we even just had one moment. You know who would have been great? I think, is it Zachariah Smith? Is he from Slytherin? I don't know. Anyway, I wish we had a Slytherin that we know of who had turned good at the end to give some sort of a redemption to say, look, there are some really good Slytherins out there. Because up to this point, the only thing that we're led to believe, even by the end, is that Slytherins are bad and they're always going to be on the evil side. So I don't like that. I do like that in the epilogue, Draco gives Harry a nod and a smile to show that they're not the best of friends, and J.K. Rowling has always said they never will be. Draco's not going to ever be friends with Harry. Harry's never going to be friends with Draco. I wish they were. There's a lot of fanfic out there, so go look it up, okay, where they are friends and sometimes where they're even a lot more than that. But anyway, as far as book canon, the actual original source material is concerned, J.K. Rowling said they will never be friends. Anyway, so back to the office. Once the Harry puts up his hand to silence all of the other portraits and addresses Dumbledore, and I am crying in this moment. I am trying to stop myself from crying, but Harry is talking to Dumbledore, which, even though Dumbledore is dead, Harry can still talk to Dumbledore. It makes me so happy. And he says, first of all, he's referring to the Resurrection Stone, but not saying the word. Remember that thing, that, you know, I got in the snitch or whatever. I dropped it in the forest. Is that okay? I did wonder at the time when he dropped it in the forest. I'd forgotten by the end, but at the time I did wonder, what if someone finds it? He addresses this with Dumbledore. There is no stone, no pun intended, there is no stone left unturned here. J.K. Rowling does so good. I ask anyone to show me where there is a plot hole that, not a plot hole, yeah, where there is something that has not been resolved in the series, because it's all resolved. And he says to Dumbledore, I dropped it in the forest, is this okay? And I think Dumbledore says yes. Then Harry says, the gift I got from Ignatius, referring to the cloak, because we find out from Dumbledore when Harry is momentarily dead that the cloak was passed down from Ignatius to sons and daughters along the line, and eventually goes to James, and then after James, who lends it to Voldemort, which opens up a whole nother can of worms, lends it to Dumbledore moments before Voldemort kills him, and that's how Dumbledore ends up in possession of the cloak. So much to say. And really we're running out of time rapidly, again, in part 2, and we're not going to do a part 3. Ends up with the cloak, and then James dies. So that's how Dumbledore ends up in possession of it, because Dumbledore was intrigued by the Deathly Hallows, and when James tells Dumbledore he has the invisibility cloak, Dumbledore asks him, can I borrow it momentarily to just have a look at it, kind of thing. And Dumbledore's always made the point that he never needed the cloak. It even comes up again in this book, where Harry recalls that Dumbledore said he never needed an invisibility cloak to be invisible. The reason he wanted it was to admire it for what it was, and that's then when James ends up dying and Dumbledore still has possession of it, and then in book 1, as we know, he gives the cloak to Harry. Okay, so now Harry, he says, I'm going to keep that, and Dumbledore says, yep, it is yours, you should. Then they talk about the wand, and Harry does not break the wand. He says he's going to leave it in Dumbledore's grave in the resting place, and provided Harry dies a natural death, no one will ever be the owner of the Elder Wand except for Harry, and so that power will be taken away. Dumbledore likes that idea too. And then obviously we go to the epilogue. I don't like that. I wish we'd spent more time at Hogwarts. Like, let's leave the headmaster's office and let's just keep doing other things. Go back to Gryffindor Tower and have a discussion. Oh, sorry, I just hit my wall there with the book. I'm just really excited here. Let's go back to Gryffindor Tower and have a discussion about what's happened, and let's have a party. Let's have Fred and George go back. Well, actually we can't because one of them died and that was sad, and Hedwig's death, and all the deaths are really sad, but I've read this book that many times that the deaths are really sad, but I'm able to separate myself from them now that it's a reread. But yeah, go back to Gryffindor Tower, have a bit of a party, whatever. I don't know. Like, it's sad that we've lost a lot of people, but still, let's enjoy the fact that we've won this war. But anyway, then we go to the epilogue and all those things that happen over there. And that scene between Harry and one of his sons, I don't know which one, but one of his sons, where the son says, "What if I am in Slytherin?" And Harry says to his son, "You are named after two of the best people at Hogwarts," or something like that, and one of them was a Slytherin, and if you become a Slytherin, then Slytherin's going to have a really good person in their house. So good. Oh my god. This series is such an amazing series. I'm not going to cry. I'm close to, but I'm not going to do it. This series is such a wonderful series. It is certainly my second favourite series ever, just after Mistborn. And after reading this book, it just reminds me of how much it is one of my all-time favourite series. But even upon the third or fourth or fifth, whatever it is, reread for me, how much this series still holds up to this day. One day Harry Potter is going to be classified as a classic. And I look forward to that so much because J.K. Rowling deserves all the credit she gets. It is just so very well done. We're about to run out of time here, but I just want to have this moment to say thank you, J.K. Rowling, for such an amazing series that wraps up so incredibly well with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you love this series? Do you love this book? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. But I'm going to leave that there and let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. Mwah. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday with reviews in between, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Happy reading. Bye, guys. Bye.